Hi, friends. I'm super glad that you're here today, and welcome to the Life Switch Show. I am Adam Kawalec, your host, of course. And every week we go live and we have guests on who share their own personal stories around a switch that they probably did themselves, or at least they have an inspiring message to share with you. My guest today is Lola Morales, and we are going to be talking about wanting to be all things and then transitioning into moving away from needing to be everything and just wanting to be yourself. And before we go into that episode, if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell to be notified every time there are new episodes going live. And if you're on Facebook, you can always go to my Facebook page, Adam Kawalec Life Coach. That's where you can follow this as well. If you're joining live, do not forget to comment, tell us where you are. And if you've got any questions, you can write in the comment sections, and we can then answer your questions. All right, guys, see you on after this short introduction.
Well, hello
And
there.
here
I
we
wasn't sure
go.
when to jump in. Hi,
Well, now is a great time. Hi, Lola.
great to be here. Thank you for inviting, and
Oh,
so nice to just be with you and gonna have a great chat.
that's it. That's what this is. This is a conversation, and you're grateful for being invited. For me, I am super grateful for you accepting the invitation. I really want you to be on this show, and I really wanted to have this conversation with you, and not just for me. Although I am selfish in that matter, like I do want to have this conversation with you personally. But at the same time, I know that anyone who's listening into this show, if they're live or not, this, listening to you, the knowledge, the experience, the wisdom that you have, I know is valuable to people. So that's really why I wanted you to come on.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate
So
that.
I told you, Lola, before we went on, like I'm not going to make a huge introduction, and to be honest, it's because it's really, really tricky. To me, it's like Lola has lived many, many different lives, and it would be really hard to explain who you are and what you've done, at least for me. So, what I kind of want to do is just to say, Lola Morales being, I think today, one of my best friends and an inspiration, a person I have the joy to know and speak with on very consistent basis. She used to be a singer. Now she's based in London, which is an interesting story to talk about. Her falling back in love with London, or at least falling in love with London. And and that's kind of where I want to leave it. And I would rather invite you to say something about, yourself, as much or as little as you feel comfortable sharing.
Okay. All right. Well, when I was preparing for this, kind of thinking, what did I want to talk about? Because, your life about your show about life shifts, and I thought to myself, well, what is the main life shift I could talk about that would be
Mm.
interesting? Um, but there have been so many. And so I too thought, where do I even begin? But as I decided to, I'm a note taker. Like I love, as you know, love notes. So I have, just binders and binders full of notes. And I thought, okay, I'll go into my notes and see if there's any inspiration there. And the first thing that I grabbed was a letter that I wrote to myself exactly a year ago, February 17th, 2020, which I thought was, how poetic is that? So I'd like to read it to you because I think that that's at least a starting point for all
Yeah,
of this.
I love that.
I was back in LA when I wrote this. Where I used to live in LA, and for those for 5 years, I had all my furniture and everything in a storage unit. So I was there paying exorbitant amounts for 5 years to house all of this furniture, and I just decided, as I was kind of cleaning up my life, that was one of the big areas I needed to clean up, like financially, like let's get out of that black hole. So I went back there in pursuit of that, to kind of clear that up and move my things out of that storage unit. And it was very successful. So I'm on the heels of that, I wrote, today I'm finally moving all of our belongings out of the storage unit. I'm so, so excited and so happy to finally be done with that. I've had a wonderful visit with my mom and Luna, my daughter, both of which I was in LA with the two of them. I'm ready to shift my life into another gear. Like how appropriate for this show, right? I am still the electric, dynamic, inspiring, cool person. I'm also the cool person, but now I'm also responsible, considerate, focused, grounded, and clear. Now, this is a combination worth its weight in gold. I'm finally here. I'm present, utilizing all of my strengths, all of my gifts. I am exactly where I should be, and I feel great. I love the old me. I love her promise, her fearlessness, her dynamism, her ingenuity, her style, her approach. And now I love the new me. I really love the tender, loving care that I now give to myself. I look forward to meeting the strength of these two women combined. I'm ready to be here, be now, be me. So I read that and I thought, wow, all of these small shifts that sometimes maybe don't feel so monumental, but compiled, when you put them all together, you really think, I really think back and go, there was a beautiful movement that happened. And starting out as somebody about maybe 5 years ago, after just having my daughter, she was 1, kind of feeling a bit lost because I had this world previous to motherhood, as a singer, as a person out in the world, adventure, flying by the seat of my pants, spontaneous, just going for the world and devouring it and doing it in a magnificent and chaotic way. And so that life and that girl, although she was very good and cool, it's short-lived because it's like a big burst of fireworks, it burns out. And so I had my daughter, and obviously that's a huge shift in itself, going from this girl who's just traipsing the world to then, having to be a responsible person for another human being. That shift was a big one. Switching from singing as a career and traveling the world doing that, and getting a lot of accolades, a lot of positive feedback about who I was, because I was this singer and, on stage and had fabulous clothes and, did fun things on stage and had people come up and, just kind of the life of the party. So going from that to feeling quite stale with my own art and my own music and my own abilities. And then kind of the shift from then having to come back to London. In that meantime, I was living in Spain. So I was coming back to London, which is, as most people know, a pretty gray city. And I'm not a gray person. So the idea that I would come back to this city and have to kind of be anchored to it because of this newfound identity as a mother and having, school patterns and all of that kind of hold me down. I just found myself in a really dark place. And I really, really missed the old Lola Morales. And I felt like there was a big loss. So I was constantly looking back at who I was and wanting to then go forward, but with that old identity. And so obviously, I mean, you can't be in more than two places at one time. And that's what I was trying to do. And in that, I also wasn't really appreciating what I had done, because it felt like, in a way, life was at a dead end. Like all of the fabulous fun, frivolity, and chaos was now added at a dead end. And I no longer understood who I was and what my identity was. So that's where my journey kind of began, and into looking, maybe being present, and then from that position, being able to look forward, to say, okay, with this new presence that I have, and maybe we can talk about how I gained that presence, because that's a big one, um, and it's multi-layered. But with this new presence and this new kind of found love for the two girls in me, now I can look forward and say, okay, where would I like to go now with who I am? So that's basically me in the nutshell. Long like always, Adam.
No, no, it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. I think it's perfect. And thank you for sharing your letter. I think that was it couldn't be a better introduction to yourself than to read a year-old letter to yourself. I think it's brilliant. And
Yeah,
and in a way, you know, having had the opportunity to know you for a couple of years now or more, knowing that how that letter is actually it's it summarizes your journey.
yeah,
I think it's just wonderful because, and as you said before, looking back, living in the past is no way to actually live the life that's awaiting. I mean, nothing new is going to come from the past.
yeah,
So it is that thing. And I mean, with you, you've got this rich history with everything that you've done as a traveling singer all over the world, knowing, having fun, meeting people, doing all kinds of beautiful things. Of course, that's something to remember.
yeah,
And that's not bad. And at the same time, things do change at times. We choose to change things, and you stepping into the motherhood allows you to transcend what might have happened in the past, and now this new life is waiting for you. And I think if we fail to accept it, if we fail to live the life we have, we miss out. We feel frustrated. We feel stressed out, uh, and and not to put any words in your mouth, but I know that every time I've been stuck in the past, that's when I felt frustrated. And every time I can accept where I am, and as you said as well, I'm exactly where I should be, or exactly where I need to be. That's acceptance. That's appreciation.
yeah.
And when we move into that, life opens up.
In a big way, in a
Yeah.
really big way, because like you use the word acceptance. There's this acceptance of what was, and
Mhm.
it was fantastic, but what is also fantastic. So I think I was not focusing on that as much. I was I had a lot of attachments to the trajectory that I had, and yeah, so kind of unraveling that was a big process, and I'm still in that process. I think we're all just trying to feel comfortable with our own selves, comfortable in our skin, and it takes work. It takes a lot
Mm.
of work, because what I was forced to do. I think the first step in kind of, I mean, I wasn't in a clinical depression, but I felt very depressed. I felt, and I'm such an energetic person that it doesn't really go with who I am. So when I found myself in this depressed state, I just thought, wow, I need to make a big change. Something has got to shift, And the first step for me because I had some, and I still am this ambitious person. I have goals. I have lists of goals and things I'm going to do, and places I'm going to go, and I'm still all for that. I love those dreams, and that will never quiet. But what did need to quiet was my pushing for it.
Mm-hmm.
So constantly saying, no, I should be there. I should be there. I want to be
Mm.
there. And again, so I had the problem of looking backwards all the time, but then I was also stuck with looking forward too much. And you can't do that either. So I had to say, okay, quiet everything, quiet on the set. Let's clear the plate.
Mm.
Let's forget the 5-year plans. Let's forget the blocking out time between my daughter's nap. I can do this, and when she's finally asleep at night, I can do that. Like, just quiet. Everything needs to be calmed down so I can sit and just look at the roots of my intention. And I think the moment I started first clearing, like not accepting any more appointments, not accepting any more visitors, because I was living in Spain and had like myriad visitors, that my door was a revolving door. I just had to say, enough of that. I need to be with myself.
Mm.
And another big thing I did was I cut myself out of social media completely.
Mm.
And honestly, I might go back onto social media. It's powerful. It's great. It's a way to connect. I don't have anything against it. But for me, stopping that energy that was going out towards it was a great thing, because I needed that energy to kind of focus internally and to start thinking about my motivations and my intentions. So I, as a singer and now as the mother, I was thinking, okay, what's the new career? Because I can't be on the road anymore. It doesn't fit with anything. And so I thought I would be a voice coach. And so when I was looking at that move into as a career, I realized I was going into it with the wrong intentions. You know, the voice coach was a label
Mm.
that justify my not so great singing career, is what I thought in my head. So it was this way to say, no, I'm still relevant. I'm in the arts. I have a label. I'm a voice coach, which was all felt very glamorous, and so this moving into that career with that kind of intention, I think, is short lived, because it wasn't deep in my heart. It was just a label. And so I had to kind of excavate my soul a little bit and understand the motivation. And once I uncovered the fact that a lot of it had to do with the label, I had to then ask, is there anything else there? Is this something that I truly would like to do? And what I discovered was, yes, I truly love teaching. I truly love helping people. I have all of this wealth of knowledge and skill set as a singer, having been a singer for so many years, that it's a gift I can share. And when I started looking at it like that, as more of this contribution and more of something that comes from deep inside of me, not just the exterior. Wow, I'm Lola Morales, a voice coach now. But no, I'm Lola Morales, and I'd like to help you with your voice problems. That there's a difference there. And
Yeah.
I think the latter has, there's more longevity to that career choice. And so I'm in pursuit of that at the moment, and I feel really confident that it's the right choice, it's the right move, and really excited. to take on some new students
Mm,
and learn and grow on that front. So that is, I guess, a major shift.
mm,
You know, perspective. Why are you going for something?
mm,
Let's be clear, and with clarity, you can move forward in a more honest way.
mm.
So I think that's a major shift
Yeah.
that's happened.
Yeah, exactly. Andrea's, she's saying about how she loves the piece of contribution. I want to get back to that. I'm all for that contribution, value, giving back. There are so many different ways we can say that. And while you've been speaking, we've had a lot of people checking in from all over the world. We've got Lisa Danforth from United States. We've got John Dale Beckley, who was my guest last week. So he's on Canary Islands, Tenerife. Andrea's here, of course. And we've got Cruise Creative joining as well. So, and we've got Annika from Sweden. So, it's people
Yeah,
all over the world. It's amazing. Which is, I'm humbled to see all these familiar faces.
yeah.
There is so much in what you just shared, Lola, I think. I mean, this is. I've taken notes. Like if people see me looking down, it's because I take notes. And I haven't really done that in the past. But for some reason, maybe because it's Lola, I started taking notes. It's a habit. You said so many great things. This label, I think, is one of them. I mean, based on the topic, like, wanting to be just me, I think, at least for me, there is a connection there with the label and wanting to be just me.
Right.
What is it about this label that is, or let me ask you this, being just you, do you need to shed all labels to get to that? Or how do you peel that onion?
No, and no, and I think what I'm coming to terms with, and happily so, just like I wrote in my letter, you don't need to shed. You just need to clarify.
Mm,
To understand. Like I can look in my past and I can say, I did that, and I'm proud of that. I did that. I'm not proud of that. I had many experiences and many adventures, and I can look at it for what it is and feel okay with what it was. And with that, I'm able to close that door. There's
mm,
no longing to still be there. It's like, that was really interesting. That was me. That was part of my journey. I'm still that girl, but now I can move into something richer and something more layered, actually. So as I walk into this new person who's definitely more responsible, definitely more accountable, less um, destructive. I think there was a lot of destruction in that carefree life towards myself and towards the people around me in my wake. Like, you better watch out. Back then, I was like, I'm coming. So to have that grounding now, there's new facets, there's new elements of me that are able to shine more
mm,
brightly, and so we can add that to the pot.
mm,
And just being me is that it's what are all the beautiful colors in my palette, what
mm,
is in there, because there's a lot, and let's let them all, let's put them all onto the painting. Let's use every color you have, and see where that takes you. And so I think, it is you're peeling back the onion in terms of understanding the intention, and answering the question, why do I want this,
mm,
why am I going for this,
mm,
but using all of the beautiful attributes that you have inside.
mm. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think again, and I'm going to come back to that with this why and having that clarity, and Annika just she threw this comment in there about when you become humble about your past, you can let go of your present, and at least for me, what that means to me is kind of like when you start accepting and appreciating even your past, there's a way for you to transcend. Like you can, in the present moment, you're then free to choose.
Yeah.
So it's not really about shedding labels or anything like it. It's that you get to choose your labels, if anything.
Yeah.
And that from what you said before about why you do things, because you can do great many things for great many different reasons. And you and I, we've had this conversation before with Maslow's, Abraham Maslow, the psychologist, where he talks about, and if anyone's interested in this, you should definitely Google Abraham Maslow, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. But he talks about the B side and the D side, basically saying you can do things, you can meet your needs, you can get what you want from two different ways, from two different perspectives. The B side, which is not the B side as compared to the A side as the primary. It's the being, the being in the moment side, which is very pure. And then the D side stands for deficit, meaning, well, basically, from the words of Maslow himself, the B side is where you're whole, you're complete, you're grounded, you're focused, you're clear. That's the B side. And you can come from that perspective, creating a loving relationship. You can build a career, you can study, you can buy clothes, you can do anything from that perspective. And it's going to be let me get back to that. And then the D side. The D side is deficit. Basically, that's where you're lacking something. So as you're lacking something, you're starting to acquire things. And, if anyone's ever worked with sales, for example, if you're needy, that's creepy. People sense that desperation, right? But if you come from a place of being whole and complete and fine, whatever, then there is a different energy, different vibe going on.
Yeah.
So, from what I heard you say, going into being a voice coach for the label of the prestige, because you need that's the D side. And, it might look the same, but it's very different. The outcome, the experience might be very different coming from a place, oh, I need this to feel whole, versus I am whole and this is what I want to do. This is what I want to contribute with. This is how I want to give back.
Right.
And from what I know about you, that's something that you've arrived at, this giving back and contributing.
Absolutely. And it's a big change. It's a different way to look at it and to move forward with it.
Mm.
You're coming at it from that neediness, it's gonna disintegrate. There's no longevity there. And if you're coming at it from this more pure place, more heartfelt, engaged attitude, then
what makes you say that though? That it might not be any oh, that's a hard word for me. Longevity. Yeah. What makes you say that?
I think, there's there's burnout that happens. There's so long that you can ride on the energy of getting accolades from external. It's based in people pleasing. Needing a label means I need to impress somebody, which means I'm looking to them to validate me, for them to say, wow, you're that person, you're good, you're special, you're important, you're worthy. And there again is that perspective. If I'm looking at life like that, basically I'm using other people's energy and their validity to move me along. But if I know I'm coming at this from a pure intention, then, I could coach one person, and feel great about
Mm,
it. Or I can have a whole school,
mm,
it just makes a big difference where you're coming from and not constantly trying to get validation from the external, which I think I was doing. And I think a large part of my singing career, I had to take a really good look at that as well. And I thought, okay, was it just the ego? Was I just on stage because I needed that validation? And when I looked at that, I think a big part of it was that. And then again, I had to ask myself, okay, is that it? Do you not want to sing anymore? Because there's a lot easier ways to get, people to love you than being on stage, because that's a hard road. That's a really hard, intense road.
mm,
And asking myself those deeper questions, I said, yeah, I love to sing. I am truly an artist. I
mm,
truly connect with my writing. I love
mm,
writing songs. I love working and collaborating and building this art together. I love performing. I love actually singing. I love that feeling I have when I'm in that zone. So, again, it's like looking at it from a pure perspective, and not just, oh, I want to get out there so I can be seen. I think
mm.
it's the people pleasing that I had to shed in a big
Yeah,
way,
yeah,
which is another
and
big shift.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think we're going to come back to that. John is saying, we both of us should be going into schools teaching about this, and I'm absolutely sure that that is such an important topic about. Well, because what I heard you talk about is basically self-worth, this self-validation that we're looking for other people's opinions to validate our worth or our existence. And I think that is definitely something that if we could teach young people today how to actually have self-worth, and I'll give them a clue that it's in the word self-worth. Like it's not going to come from someone else. It's your own self-worth. If we were able to help young people develop this for themselves, I am sure we would see a much larger contribution in the world. And I'm not saying productivity, that's not what it is. It can be, but that's not what it is. It's contribution. It's people who would give freely, and it would be pure. And I think that's what we would, it's, who was it? Was it JFK who said no, I can't remember. It's one of the American presidents, though. Like the world needs more people to come alive, something like that. They need more people like you to come alive, and I
Right.
think that's something that we really need. I truly believe that the most beautiful, most precious gift that there is you, is you coming alive, you being you,
Yeah.
which is why it's so important that you're not trying to be someone else,
Right.
because you're it. You're
Yeah.
that single precious version of yourself,
Yeah.
right? Always be yourself. Well, unless you can be Batman, then be Batman. But like otherwise, it's because I would love to be Batman. I'm going to be honest, but always otherwise be yourself. And again, we're back on the topic, like just being me. And I think it is such an important journey and such an important message.
Yeah, for sure. And to get there, though, and I'm just trying to thinking in my head, teaching it in schools, like how would you teach that? I think it
Mm,
is some, if we could teach that, that would be amazing. I think it takes a lot of internal work, a lot of
hmm.
looking at yourself and
I agree.
understanding where you're coming from,
Yeah,
and that
I agree.
clarity is everything. Because once you're clear, I like this, I don't like that. I want this and I know why I want this, and I don't want that and I know why I don't want that. All of those are tangibles. Like those are a fact, right? So with fact, you can then move. You can
Mm,
move out of a depression. You can move into your new career. You can
mm,
move into a better relationship. You can move, but until you understand those facts, and until you have internally kind of excavated your own soul, you're not going to be able to make those moves. You're going to be constantly spinning around in circles, which is exactly what I was doing. So yeah,
yeah, yeah.
power
Clarity,
is
clarity.
it.
I think it is a superpower. Like when you have clarity, it transforms any confusing situation into a binary situation. Like it's either or, it's yes or no. When you have clarity, it's like the door number one leads to, and I've said this, I've spoken about this when I talk about fear, but clarity, knowing what's behind door number one and what's behind door number two. If you know there's certain death behind door number one, and there is absolute freedom and paradise behind door number two, it becomes a very binary decision. It's like, I'm going to go with door number two, right? Easy. The fear, the uncertainty when you don't know, like you only know behind one of these doors, there is certain death. Now, pick one.
Yeah,
That messes people up.
yeah,
And so, in my world, clarity allows us to make these factual decisions, fact based decisions. Um, we don't have to live life, surfing the feelings that same way when we have clarity.
right.
Again, another thing I often say is pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Now, I didn't come up with that. I have to, be really clear about that. That's a proverb, but it's definitely something I think is absolutely true. You can't always control what happens to you, so to have and experience the pain is totally natural and allowed. Now, the suffering though, that is optional, and it's optional because as you get clarity, as you ground yourself, you're able to much faster get back up versus if the feelings are running the show and not facts.
Absolutely,
Now,
absolutely.
that's a whole other topic. It's a huge one, but I just kind of wanted to put it in there because I really think you're onto something.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to say, just going back a little bit about the clarity
Mm,
and being able to make factual choices. Also, part of that, and the exciting part of the clarity, because it's starting to feel really black and white. And you know me, I'm not black and white.
no.
So yes, clarity provides factual information, or at
Mm,
least it has to me. It's like an honest roadmap. Okay, it's
yeah.
like, okay, I like this, I don't like that, I want this, I don't want that. And once you have that kind of clarity and that grounded feeling where you're calm, you're connected, you're grounded, from there, then it's a jumping off point to then take risks,
Mm,
bold, do that thing you always wanted to do, but were too nervous to do, or too afraid that what somebody would think about it, or say about it, or feel about it. Make a bold move into new territory, and experiment. So it's new life based on the old roadmap.
mm,
It's charting new territory, but with understanding where you're coming from. And I think that's a really important point, because all the shifts that I've made in these past years, but the past 3 years in particular, where I've been very, very focused on making change, all of it has led me to now being able to dare a bit more, to being able to dare, but with a grounded attitude, with a belief system in myself, and to try new things, to experiment with who I am.
mm.
Am I a voice coach? Okay, yeah, I am, but what kind of a voice coach do I want to be? And so am I still a musician? Yeah, I am. So I can be a voice coach. I can still be a musician. I can still be a singer. I can still be on stage. I don't have to just be one thing. I can experiment. And I'm also a mother, throw that into the pot with all this responsibility. But, that's a whole topic in itself. Like, I can be a fun mom, somebody who's actually engaged with my kid, and we do things that I love to do, not just sit at the park, which I hate to do. You know, there's new territory that can be unearthed with this newfound connection to the self that I think is really important. And
Yeah.
anybody listening who would be stuck and wondering, how the hell do I move out of this? And who am I going to be? What am I going to do with my life? Start with this kind of connection with the self. Ask yourself the questions. Like, be honest with your answers too. Don't give yourself the answers that you think you should be giving. Ask yourself the serious questions. Give yourself the honest answers, and from that, a roadmap will emerge. And from that, then you can start making these new choices and take risks and fail. Sometimes fail miserably, but that's okay, because you're moving.
And
You're
it's
moving where you were.
and it's adding to that clarity. The
Yes.
failure actually adds to the clarity. Then you
Yeah.
know that what worked and what didn't work, and it becomes feedback, not failure.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So and I like what you did, because, as you say, clarity doesn't have to be a matter of black and white. It's not either or. It's clarity that can help us, as you say, it can ground us and create that jumping off point where it's like, okay, now I'm clear. And I have this equation in my head. I might turn into something in the future, but I have this play of words where I say, define, decide, and declare. And for me, it's probably going to be something that I turn into something in the future, if I ever have the time for it. But to me, it's really about that define. As you said, I am a mother. Cool. So are you being a deliberate mother? Are you deciding who you want to be? A lot of times, the first step is to define, what kind of mother do I want to be? What kind of singer do I want to be? What kind of a partner, friend, coach, whatever it is, do I want to be?
Yeah.
What's my perfect day? When you define, or even success, right? That was my thing. I gained control. I started living life on my terms when I defined what success looked like for me.
Right.
That was number one, because I was following, the roadmap to success based on all the messages out there, movies and TED Talks and authors and whatever, right? But when I stopped and just defined it for myself, for the first time, I started regaining some control. The next thing I did was to decide what to do. From the decision, then I declared, basically committed, right? That again, it's a play of words, but it's really about committing. And in that, it doesn't say that you can't fail. You're more than welcome to fail. Actually, it's a good idea to fail, because it gives you data, it gives you feedback. Then you know what's working and what's not. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I definitely think that clarity, it doesn't have to be a matter of either or. It's definitely a jumping off point.
Yeah.
I mean, you said anyone who's feeling stuck for the moment of trying to figure out what to do. You said connect to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, trying to navigate the answers so that they are not just, how do you
You're
say
right.
that? Lip service. They're not just, right? Can you speak about that? Like, what would you tell someone who says, yeah, you mentioned this connecting with the self. Where can I start? What can I do?
Yeah, I was thinking of, what was tangible. What were the things that I did to kind of feel more connected, more
Mm.
grounded. I mean, the kind of the basic list that I have is, first I just had to clear my plate. I
Correct.
had
Yeah.
to say no to a lot of things and take the space that would normally be held for entertaining friends and being with
Mm.
friends, or going out doing things like that. I had to just keep it for myself. And because as a new mom, this is when Luna was 3, so as a mom to a toddler, there's not a lot of space for you anyway. So every little crumb that I could get, I thought I need to keep this for myself. And in that time that I did have for myself, I did a lot of journaling. As I said, I'm a big note taker. You know, when I'm asking myself those big questions, journaling for me is a really productive way to get
Mm.
to the heart of the answers. So, every morning, making time for myself in the morning, saying I'm, going to get meditating as a mother is a joke, because you're like, I love the meditative aspect, and I have made big change with meditation. I think it's a great tool, and it's a very right now tool as well. But as a mom, it is a joke. You're like, okay, I'm going to take my 10 minutes or whatever. How many do you tell your child? I'm going to be in here. And then suddenly you hear, you're in your zone, and you hear pitter, patter. And you're like, I'm not going to open my eyes. I'm not going to, but this is my time. And the fire burning gets hotter and hotter, and you're seething inside. And so you're more pissed off because you open your eyes. You're like, what are you doing here? This is my 10 minutes to meditate. And so it becomes this thing. So, I mean, it's a joke. Now that Luna's a bit older, she's 6, there is a bit more room to do that. So I do a bit of that now. I use Headspace, which is really great. It's
Mm.
easy minutes. But it sets me up. Um, I ask myself, the questions: how can I make this easier? You
Mm.
know, how can I be less intense about it all and make it more lighthearted? Because that's a
Mm.
big thing for me. Like, I can get very intense about things. So how do I make this fun?
Yeah.
You
Is
know,
that important though? I mean, I'm trying to light-hearted. Is that important to you, or would you say it's in general it's a good idea, or what are your thoughts on that?
I think to me it is so valuable,
Mm.
because the one side of me is a carefree, spontaneous person who loves to just go and be. But the other side of me is like very strict, and I'm very regimented, and I like a plan, and so they fight with each other. These two sides fight with each
Yeah.
other all the time, and so my quest to merge them sometimes is a battlefield. So yeah, it gets a bit tricky, but the need to be more lighthearted is something I have to remind myself
Mm.
when I'm getting in that overly overproductive mode.
Mm.
When I'm function over. I think it's called over functioning. I think I heard that
Mm.
something.
Yeah.
Just doing too much at too much all the time. And that's what I mean also about clearing my plate, because I'm always, my head is always spinning with new ideas and new things I want to do and be and see and go. I have to
Mm.
take it back, peel that onion back, and
Mm.
go, what is the most important thing I can do now, with the limited time I have, with the limited resources I might have? What's important now?
Mm.
And then focus on that, but then to bring joy to that process, as opposed to going, okay, now I'm going to block out time and 15 minutes for that and 5 minutes for this. That's all very good, to plan, but to do it with joy. And I have
Mm.
to remind myself about that. I just
Yeah.
found myself right now getting very explaining.
No, but it's good. It's good.
Bring the happiness to it.
Yeah.
This I'm doing. I have all these goals and ambitions for reasons that excite me. So why not be excited and
Yes.
happy as I'm doing it? Like
Yeah.
that. What is the phrase that life is? The journey. Enjoy the journey,
Yeah. Yeah.
not
It's
just
not a destination. It's the
yeah,
journey, right? Yeah.
yeah.
Definitely. Definitely.
I think
Now,
that's where I am now in that process. That's
yeah.
where the work is at the moment,
Mm,
is understanding how to bring more of the joy to it.
yeah. To enjoy the journey.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. And the reason why I asked about lightheartedness is because what I heard you say is almost like get clear on your values, right? For you, it's an important thing to balance this productivity with feeling lighthearted and
Mhm.
enjoy it.
Yeah.
So I would like to add what you've been listing is for anyone who's doing this work, the inner work to do this themselves, figure out what your values are. And you can use that and you can even ask yourself, what would I do if I embodied lightheartedness or joy or honesty or whatever your value is? Because a lot of times when we ask those questions, it can point us in the direction which just feels more natural. Again, it's going to ground us. It's going to have us be just ourselves versus trying to be all things.
Right.
So, to recap, because I think this is really valuable. What you've shared so far is this, clear your plate, make sure there is time, space for yourself. What was it? You said a couple of other things. Space.
Journaling.
Journaling, exactly. Journaling, and again, I think journaling and asking these questions are such an important or useful tool because it allows you to see things. It allows you to reflect, and I truly believe that that is important. You mentioned also to I
Ask
lost
yourself
it.
to make something easier. How
Yeah,
to
precisely. There was something else you said as well that I thought was just great. Time in the morning. You said,
oh yeah.
and for some that might be in the early hours. For some it might be in nighttime, but just making that time. And I think maybe that goes hand in hand with journaling. But I do think that if we're living very stacked, hectic, back to back meetings and lives and commitments, it's going to be tricky. I mean, you even mentioned it before that while things were really hectic, if you try to jam in, 20-minute session there, this thing there, you could do that. It's just the experience, like, you wouldn't actually be doing it for its own sake. You would do it just to cross it off. I did it, showed
Yeah.
up, got it
Yeah.
in, right? But there's a huge difference in doing the thing you're doing with presence, with focus, and this harmony.
Absolutely.
And I think creating
And
space.
there's a lot of room for error when you're just stacking like that.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot you can fall really hard when you have so many things stacked up
Yeah.
like
What
that.
makes you say that?
Well, just it all comes tumbling down because if one thing goes wrong,
Oh yeah.
then like the rest of your day goes crashing down.
True. True.
Or
There's no flexibility.
there's no flexibility. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm taking out of this conversation, because as I said, when I started, I was like, what am I going to talk about? There's so many facets in terms
Mm.
of shifts in life. But I guess I'm clear now that I'm a person that I want to do a lot of things,
Hmm.
still have big ambition and big goals, but I can go in internally and understand why I want them and what kind of approach I'm going to take to get that,
Mm.
and enjoy the journey along the way as I'm moving forward with my life and my dreams and my goals and my ambitions. So I think that's what I'm taking from this, from myself. Had a little growth here, a shift on the shift show.
Yeah. Definitely, and I'm glad we can facilitate that. It's hopefully others can take something from this as well, of course. But I'm really glad that you're taking something away from this, and I'm not surprised. Honestly, I have to say, knowing your story and knowing the shifts and the switches in your life, very few people in my life have gone through those switches that you've created for yourself, which I think is impressive. And so when I say you're inspiring to me, it's really one of the reasons why you are, because of all of those transformations that you've created. You and I, we have this internal thing about butterflies and how you grow wings and all kinds of things, that it's in that, a butterfly can't become a butterfly without being the worm first, or the caterpillar, right? And that's part of, like, it's what we is when we go through life. I think it's what's trying to emerge. Everything that's going on is like what's trying to emerge. And for a caterpillar, when it allows itself to slow down and ask itself what's trying to emerge, and if it's still enough, gives it time, space, room, it will grow into a butterfly and it will fly away. And all of a sudden, what was trying to emerge wasn't to overcome a problem or run away from one. It was to grow wings and making the problem irrelevant. And I think, that is something that I've seen you do many times over, turning into this butterfly over and over.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely waiting for the transformation as opposed to pushing it.
There you go. Exactly. And I like what you said about that because again, it's so easy to feel this pressure, this rush, this urgency, and we push, we work hard. And especially if you're very, productivity driven and efficiency, then it's easy to do so. And sometimes because of that, as you said before, you're stacking it so high that when something cracks, and it probably will because the flexibility isn't there, the whole thing comes tumbling down.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Mm.
And just getting connected with your own self. I think that's the waiting for it, being there, being still, being in the moment, not having this drive to just keep it all pushed forward. Just be still. I would like to read you a little poem
Yes, please.
I found. It's not really a
Absolutely.
poem, it's just some words. It's just kind of like maybe an ending.
I like it. Have you written it yourself, or is it?
No, and I found it's just like this big, It's
Yeah. No, I love it. It's perfect. It's a perfect recap of this whole thing. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
and again, I found it in my notes, and I think I don't know. I think this was, I don't know when I wrote this, but I found it, and it said, "Who do I become? Who would I be? What would I do? How would I speak? And what would I say if I were just me?"
There you go. That's it. Right?
That kind of says it all,
It really does. And I don't know if you saw it, but James just pulled up a comment from Annika who said, like, wow, this was the best episode so far. Lola broke the boundaries tonight. Be yourself. Clear the space and why. What and how. I thought I had done it, but I'll have to do it over and do it right. Yeah, do it over and do it right. Exactly. And I think, Annika, listening to what Lola just shared in her short poem, that's what it's about. And I have to agree with Annika. It was a beautiful episode. I knew it was going to be. I knew it was going to be a beautiful episode when I invited you to join. This is exactly what I wanted. You to share this. And again, what I'm taking away from this is your contribution. One of my mentors, Steve Chandler, this wonderful life coach, he talks about that you can live life with seeking to be entertained, or you can be a creator. Seeking entertainment is all about what you get. from the world, from people, right? You're always looking to, like, how can I be entertained? Where's the distraction? What's in it for me? And the creator is looking for ways to bring things about, like give, contribute, leave a legacy, or give something. And I think today you definitely stepped into that role of being a creator and contributing and sharing your journey, which is kind of like enjoy the journey is the message. And I think it's beautiful.
Yeah. I thank you too for having me be a part of this, and it's just an honor to be here and to share, to share what I know so far.
Well, thank you very much, Lola. I'm thinking maybe there's a way in the future to have you come back on and share some more. And I'd be happy to extend that invitation, and we'll see if we can make that happen. But I really did appreciate you coming on today.
Yeah, me too. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Lola. All right, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. And thank you very much for engaging so much in the comments and, sharing where you are, where you're listening in from, and all of that. I am sure that you found this useful and helpful. I am absolutely sure. I've seen it in the comments. And for me, this was really, really a powerful conversation to have. So thank you very much for tuning in today. If you're watching on YouTube, do not forget to like and subscribe and smash that notification bell. That way you get notified every time we go live or there's an upcoming episode. And if you're joining on Facebook, you can like on my Facebook page, which is called Adam Kawalec, Life Coach. And again, thank you very, very much for being on this live with me. And I do hope that I get to see you next week, because next week we are talking to a guest, Heather, and we are going to be talking about life balance. We're going to be talking about health, which I think right now can be a super, super important thing in general. So I'm super thrilled to have her on to tell us more about this. She's a yoga teacher, amongst many, many other things, a holistic coach and practitioner. So I think for anyone who's interested in health and holistic health should tune in next week. So guys, next week, Wednesday, 6 p.m. London time. See you then. Bye.